Hey everyone, thanks for having me. I am kind of feeling like a kid at Christmas right now. I've been organizing SpringOne since 2012, and this is the first time I get to actually come up on stage and address you directly as something other than your MC. So I'm pretty excited. Thank you. Thank you. Just had a few words I wanted to tell you about open source at Pivotal, and then I have something special for everyone that I think you're going to enjoy. We all get by with a little help from our friends, right? Sure, we all know, everyone in this room probably knows why open source is important to the industry, to vendors, but why is it important to you, right? I mean, you get innovations from outside your own team. If without a community, there isn't enough experience to learn from. I mean, we've all cut and pasted from Stack Overflow. If there weren't enough people on there, where would we get our answers? If by participating in a community, you actually gain the ability to direct and shape the influence of the future direction of the software. And of course, there is no way to get noticed faster than make a commit and a contribution to an open source project. You're darn sure that the people on the other end of that project are going to notice who you are. And then, of course, for the next generation, the fact that things are out in open source means that there's code to learn from. I don't know about you, but if I'm ever trying to pick up something new, the first thing I'm going to do is look for example code. And of course, it's just more fun with friends. So the other nice thing about open source in 2018 is that it's just better understood, right? Harvard Business Review, 100-page paper here with, among other things, conclusions around the fact that, if open source is central to the company's business, contributing to it actually gives you a lot more value than just using it and not contributing back. This makes intuitive sense when you think about it for a moment. The feedback you're going to get at the command line or from the compiler or what have you is by no means as interesting as the feedback you're going to get from another human being who's a power user or maybe even a committer from the project, right? And we've all experienced this on Stack Overflow and elsewhere. But by interacting with these people, a more senior or more experienced user might show you a whole new way to apply your same skills or just simply help you troubleshoot a problem faster. So let's look a little bit at some of the health of Spring and Pivotal's various open source communities that they contribute to and sometimes sponsor. So Spring Boot, as you know, extremely popular. We're now up to number 5 on GitHub by stars for all the Java projects. Spring team is up about 17%, contributors up about 20% from the previous year, and we're trying to make it easier for you to contribute to the project itself with some of these new issue labels that you see up here on the screen. We're trying to make it a little easier for you to contribute and get involved. Cloud Foundry, a lot of velocity here. Not only 8% increase year over year in commits, but pull requests are up 28%. 3,500 contributors. There's a lot going on in Cloud Foundry. RabbitMQ, our friends at Cloud AMQP, which run a hosted instance or a public cloud for RabbitMQ, their multi-tenant and single-tenant instances are up at around 50%. And most of the RabbitMQ community is on their mailing list, which has grown 25% year over year. Apache Geode, again, also a very active mailing list. Since the Apache Software Foundation publishes some of their stats, we know that they were the 5th most active mailing list last year. And their unique IPs on Maven downloads are up 70%. Greenplum, based on Postgres SQL, it's funny, the graph I did makes it look really small, but that's actually like 111 contributors up to 170 in 1 year. And you can see the trend on pull requests and GitHub stars going kind of the same direction. But the real story here with Greenplum is the alignment around Postgres, which is a very different strategy from some of the Greenplum's massively parallel processing database competitors like Snowflake and Redshift and Vertica. They're all closed source. But we've really focused on Postgres, and we're actually ramping up hiring so that we can do even more in the Postgres community. My favorite is this one, Reactor downloads. you can see really clearly on the hockey stick where Spring Boot 2.0 was introduced, right? Project Reactor is the foundation for a lot of the reactive data types, Flux and Mono, that you see in Spring Framework 5X and Spring Boot 2. And you can see as soon as Spring 2 hit the streets, 800% increase year over year in Maven downloads. Yeah, Maven downloads are kind of a little weird of a metric. Sure, CI builds and bots and things like that. But when you look at all the other metrics in aggregate and they all kind of going the same direction, you get a general idea of health of the community, which you can clearly see in terms of the Reactor on GitHub stats here as well. Last is the new Knative project. Since we don't have any real history here, since it's brand new, I think it's interesting to note, already a fair amount of activity across the 3 main repos on serving, build, and eventing, and Pivotal making a fairly substantial contribution to some of them, as much as 20% of the code down there in the eventing area. So pretty excited about that, and you'll hear more about that today. There's another Knative session from us as well.